Hello there, friends and sane persons, and welcome to another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. My name is Kyle, and Wednesday Whimsy is a short show I do every Wednesday evening where I talk about a board game, a top 10 list, or a board game related topic, or something else that happens to be on my mind. So, a couple of weeks ago, with Ilya on the Saturday show, or Sunday show, I guess, we did a list of the games that we're kind of interested in at GenCon, a GenCon preview, as it were. That's, just shooting, in the dark because you have no idea if these games are, one, even going to be there, two, be available in any kind of quantity, and three, be any good. So what I thought I would do today is just sort of talk about, because I'm getting prepared to leave. I'm leaving on Wednesday night, so this may be a pre-recorded episode. Um, but I'm getting ready to leave pretty soon and head out to Indianapolis, where I will go to Gen Con. I've been lots of times. I went almost every year until the pandemic. And then I really haven't gone. I went one time during it, or sort of right after that first one when it was not canceled. And then I haven't been back since because various other things have happened. But I've been, 8 times at least, maybe more. And it's really something that I have in the past really enjoyed. I like going to Indianapolis. It's an interesting place. There's interesting things to see there, interesting food to eat. It's an odd town. I wish there were more hotels nearby. But other than that, I wanted to. It's a place I've visited the downtown at least quite a few times, and I enjoy the Gen Con experience. I want to talk about some things that I'm excited about, some sort of things I do to prepare, uh, and of course, maybe a couple things I'm not as excited about. Then, in next week, perhaps I might come back and recap and talk about some of the highlights from the experience. So, I'm not going to give a long list of the things I'm not looking forward to. I'll just kind of give them right here. Gen Con is very crowded. And as I'm getting older, I'm liking crowds a lot less. I don't like a huge bunch of people around me. I don't like having to push. I don't like being pushed. Gen Con is a place where there's a lot of excitement and fear of missing out. Sometimes there's things that are available that are in a very limited quantity, and you can probably get them later, but there's sort of a desire to get them right now, and I mean, I can get caught up in that too, but it's not, doesn't mean it's a lot of fun. So this sort of kind of pushing, shoving in a crowded area, not something I really love. Gen Con is very expensive, in addition to the ticket cost to get there, which is going to be $200 depending on, or more, depending on when you book it from where I live. You've got hotels at inflated prices, and then you've got the games themselves that are on sale are not going to be going for a discount. These are usually things that are going to be sold at more than you could get them for if you waited a week or two. So there's sort of this excitement of people buying, and supply and demand being what it is, prices tend to be higher. You're not going to usually find any very great deals. Gen Con it's crowded, it's pushy, it's expensive, and that's what I don't like about it. I mean, it's also a hassle to go there, right? It's a lot of time. It's 2 days away from work. It's a whole weekend gone. It's also, an hour or two traveling to Indianapolis and back. So there's a lot of time that's involved. So those are some things I don't love about it. Now let's talk about the way that I prepare for Gen Con. So I do usually do a sort of Gen Con preview, or I go to the Board Game Geek website where there is the Gen Con preview, and they have these for Essen and for Gen Con. I don't know if they have them for other conventions. I have not historically attended those other conventions, but what you have here is it's a list, and it lists all of the games that are supposedly going to be at Gen Con. Now, it's obviously based on what publishers say, and, who knows? and we talked about this when we did our GenCon preview, but I'll just, since I'm talking about how I prepare, I'm going to show this here. And so you can go to this list on the Board Game Geek website, and you can look at all of the games that are coming out. You can filter it based upon, whether they're for trade or, well, for trade, whether they're for demo or they're for sale, whether it's a standalone or expansion. You can also slice and dice it by playtime, cost, language, and things like that. And you can also sort by the tags that you've given to these things. And then you're going to go through and you can click on each item. You can click must have, interested, undecided, or not interested. Now for me, lots of them end up on not interested. You can be not interested if I'm not interested. Or if I already have it, or if I'm expecting it on Kickstarter soon, I'll often put it as not interested. For example, Dracula versus Van Helsing is a game I have and I like a lot. I just, I'm not interested in it at GenCon because I already have it sitting upstairs on my shelf. And so that's one thing I'll do. I'll go through this a couple of times usually because it gets updated as you go along. And I'll just kind of, indicate what I want to check out. Now that doesn't really translate into any direct action items for me because when you get to the vendor hall, it's large, not particularly well organized. And unless there's something you must have right away, you've got plenty of time to sort of walk around and see what's there. So unless it's, you kind of prioritize it by your must have, day one, I need to buy this item, and then the rest just kind of is what it is. So I'll do that. In terms of what I pack, not much. I pack, usual, a couple changes of clothes, right, to be there for 4 days. I don't really bring games. GenCon is a place to acquire games, not to bring them, because space is at a premium. If I'm going to buy stuff and bring it home, I got to put it in my suitcase, and if I fill my suitcase with other stuff, well, there's no room for anything else. So I usually will bring, in the past I've brought 2 suitcases, one inside of the other, and I've just, they've been pretty empty going out and pretty full coming back. This year, I think I'm just going to bring 1 empty suitcase. I don't, as I mentioned when we did this, the preview with Ilya, I have a lot of what's coming out, or I've ordered it already, and so I don't know that I need to buy a whole lot of things. I hope I don't. I mean, I hope I'll find some surprises that I'm really excited about, but in terms of something I must buy, not much. There's things I'd like to see. I'm excited to go, but I'm hoping that I don't come home with a lot of stuff. But we'll see. I bring always at least 1 empty suitcase. I always bring a couple of these hats, right? That's kind of my thing. Actually, my hat, the very first one I bought, the blue eye, I bought at GenCon. So, I get to, it's like a reunion of sorts. I've acquired many since then and many, not at GenCon, but I always bring a couple of those. It also helps me stand out so that people can find me if they're looking for me. And that's kind of what I pack. So I prefer to pay too much money to stay at a hotel near the convention center. This year we're not. My brother got a reservation at a different hotel, and it had passed its cancellation date by the time I found a place nearby the convention center. But that's okay, right? I mean, it's not the end of the world. I do prefer to be close, but I'm also happy to have somewhere to stay, and it's silly to cancel a reservation that's not refundable. So there's that. I usually make my flight plan not that much in advance. I don't usually sign up for very many events. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I find that 1 or 2 events is great. If I sign up for more than that, I tend to feel like I'm constantly in a rush, and I don't like that feeling. So, there you go. And now I just want to talk about, the top 5 things I'm looking forward to at GenCon. These are in order, but I'm looking forward to all of these. The first one is, as I mentioned, scheduled events. So this year, my brother has signed me up for several events. We're doing a role-playing game. We're demoing some Dungeons and Dragons Onslaught. thing. We're playing a new scenario of Arkham Horror LCG. So these are all events that he's signed us up for, and come at a specific time. Now there are some people who play in these scheduled demos and do these events the whole time, and that's their thing. There's a thing called True Dungeon, where you kind of go through and pretend to be a character and flick discs at a board. There's that. There's lots of scheduled events to do. I enjoy a few. But like I mentioned a moment ago, I don't like to sort of think, okay, I need to be somewhere at this time. I prefer more of an open experience at GenCon. And so while I'm happy to do a few events, I would never want to schedule more than 2 or 3, just because I'll feel like I'm in a rush, and I never like that feeling. That's how I feel at work. Second thing is friends and family. Now, this would normally be number 1. However, I don't know that many people at Gen Con. It's a big enough event where there are some people I've seen many years. There's some people I know from other events, but it's not an intimate convention where you're meeting up with lots of old friends. I might see a few people I know, and then as I mentioned, my brother's going, and I'm looking forward to seeing him. But the friends and family aspect is lower at this convention than at pretty much any other convention other than like Essen. The Dice Tower Retreat or the cruise, for example, I know the people who are there. I look forward to seeing them. I look forward to playing games with certain people. This one, I hope to see a couple people I know, but if I don't, I'm also okay with that. So it's a little bit lower than it normally would be. The third thing, and the one thing I kind of always do at Gen Con, is go to the Summoner Wars tournament. I like Summoner Wars a lot. I play in the online tournament sometimes. I'm not very good, right? When compared with other people who play it a lot, my win rate is 2 out of 3, which I think is decent, but I never plan on winning these events. And even if I did, I mean, the prizes are usually other products from Black Hat Games, of which I already have them all. So it's more just an event to sort of see some people and watch them kind of play and have me sort of be there on the sidelines. I enjoy it. It's fun. It's a good thing to do, and it's something I look forward to. And I kind of count it in a separate bucket from the scheduled events. Number 2 is the St. Elmo Steakhouse. So Indianapolis downtown has an old steakhouse called St. Elmo Steakhouse, and it's known for amazing shrimp cocktails. I mean, they have really good steaks, too. They have great creamed corn. Usually they have some kind of a blackberry cobbler or something. Lots of really good food, but the shrimp cocktail is really what you go there for. And it's kind of a tradition for me to go there one night every Gen Con, and it's something I look forward to because it's always fun, and it's always good. It's usually expensive. It's a more expensive steakhouse. It's a more expensive dinner than I would normally go to. But hey, once every year or two, let's have a good time. And the last thing, and the thing that I, generally enjoy the most and the least, is the vendor hall. I enjoy it the least because it's super crowded and pushy and expensive, but I love wandering around and just looking at the booths and sort of seeing, the big things, but also something small, something I didn't know about. I mean, one of my favorite games, Shadows of Brimstone, I don't know how I always want to say over, is a game that I discovered because of the booths. In fact, probably the best Gen Con was the one kind of right after the pandemic time, because the big vendors weren't there, and so there was a whole lot more focus on these somewhat smaller companies, and the Shadows of Brimstone folks had a huge booth, and I was able to sort of see it and play it and try it out and really figure out that I quite like the game. And I enjoy that aspect of the vendor hall. Yes, I enjoy rushing to find the thing that I really want to try, and I enjoy seeing things, and I enjoy seeing some people, right? I've gotten to know some people that presented these things over the years, or I know of them, and it's kind of interesting to see them in real life. But I just enjoy walking around and seeing what there is to see. There's a lot of people watching to do. There's a lot of non-game things, right? Hats, kilts, various artwork. But the game booths and the demo tables and all that stuff is really interesting to see. and I will spend a good long time there. I mean, Thursday and Friday we have a lot of events, but Saturday and Sunday I'm probably going to be there most of the time. And it can be exhausting, and it is the number one thing I am most excited about and the most dreading, because of course I don't love the thought of being with all these crowds, but I think I'm going to have a good time there, and looking forward to it. Anyway, that's just sort of a ramble today about what I'm thinking about getting ready for GenCon. I will enjoy being there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I might come back in a week or maybe two. We'll see what's on my mind and talk about what I did like, what I didn't, what went well, what was amazing, and all those things. So anyway, until then, I'm going to wish you safe travels, courage when you need it, and I'll hope to see you back again soon next week for another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. Bye-bye.